Hello MotoGP enthusiasts, welcome back to ZNGP today. Marc Márquez had a dramatic Sunday race in Thailand, where he narrowly escaped a penalty despite a breach of MotoGP's safety regulations. A fall and an equipment malfunction created a tense situation for the Gresini Ducati rider. In the latest MotoGP controversy, Enea Bastianini has questioned Marc Márquez's tactics in a recent incident involving a position return. Bastianini believes Marquez exploited a loophole that could set a new precedent in the sport. After an intense race at the Thai Grand Prix, Jack Miller reflected on his performance and the challenges he faced on a wet track. Starting from 15th on the grid, Miller demonstrated skill and resilience, quickly moving up through the field. As the MotoGP season nears its climax, Marc Márquez is in the spotlight after an impressive run of form. Former champion Álex Crivillé recently discussed Marquez's resurgence, his mindset, and his intriguing relationship with future teammate Pecco Bagnaia. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. Marquez, who began in 5th position on the grid, started the day with high hopes for a podium finish. Riding alongside top championship contenders, his qualifying performance on Saturday had positioned him well for the sprint and main race on Sunday. However, his promising start took a turn when he slipped on a curb due to wet conditions. Although able to rejoin the race, the crash had more serious consequences than it appeared. After returning to the track in last position, Marquez found himself battling with Joan Mir. A minor collision between the two resulted in Marquez being penalized with a position drop. Yet this wasn't the only issue he faced. His fall had caused a malfunction in his racing suit, compromising his safety and raising questions about MotoGP's safety protocol enforcement. According to Article 2.4.5.2 of the FIM MotoGP regulations, every rider is required to maintain a full set of undamaged safety equipment. This includes a helmet, one-piece suit, gloves, boots, and protective padding. The rule also specifies that all equipment must remain correctly fastened throughout track activities. The equipment must be worn, correctly fastened, at all times during track activity. The decision of the technical director is final in matters of rider equipment. Quote from MotoGP regulation. A similar breach in 2021 led to a penalty for Fabio Quartararo during the Catalan Grand Prix. In Marquez's case, however, his suit malfunction was directly caused by his fall, which made it difficult for him to avoid the issue. The decision not to penalize Marquez has sparked discussion, given MotoGP's strict safety standards. Marquez's malfunction wasn't intentional but raised questions about enforcement. The FIM regulations grant the technical director the authority to make final calls on such incidents, considering the context of each situation. The Thai Grand Prix served as a reminder of the unpredictable nature of MotoGP racing, where quick decisions are often required on safety and regulations. Marc Márquez's case highlights the balance between strict rule enforcement and the unforeseen challenges riders face on the track. The on-track encounter between Marc Márquez and Joan Mir during the penultimate MotoGP race in Thailand has reignited debate about position-giving rules. Race officials determined that Márquez's overtaking move was aggressive, prompting a penalty that required him to yield his position. However, Bastianini claims Marquez cleverly used fellow rider Takaki Nakagami to avoid losing time. When Marquez had to give back the position, in theory he should have given it back to me, since I was the rider who was right behind. However, Marc was clever. He quickly overtook Nakagami and then let him pass. This could create a precedent, although it must be admitted that he was very clever in taking advantage of the situation. Quote from Bastianini. Bastianini expressed frustration with the current rule allowing riders 3 laps to comply with a position-giving penalty, calling for immediate compliance. When you are warned, you should do it immediately, without having the 3 laps that are now allowed. I did not receive a clear answer from race direction. They said they understood the situation, but nothing more. Bastianini also reflected on a race incident with Fabio Quartararo and his own errors. Early in the race, Quartararo's move forced both riders off track, resulting in a loss of multiple positions. Bastianini managed to recover to 7th place before ultimately crashing out. What bothered me the most was my mistake in the race. At turn 1, Quartararo came in and we both ended up off the track. When I came back, I had to cut the throttle and lost a lot of positions. He noted that poor front tire grip in the opening laps contributed to the difficulty of regaining control after the collision with Quartararo. Despite his frustrations with Marquez and Quartararo, Bastianini is also keeping a close eye on the championship race between Pecco Bagnaia and Jorge Martin. While he wasn't in the running for victory, Bastianini had anticipated an intense fight with his teammate Pedro Acosta, viewing the title chase between Bagnaia and Martin as wide open. Bagnaia? I expected him to get back into the fight. I didn't understand why it had been so hard for him to be in front again, but this victory was necessary. The fight between them is very open. With only a few races remaining in the MotoGP season, the competition between Bagnaia and Martin is intensifying, while the Marquez-Bastianini controversy adds further intrigue. The debate over position-giving penalties could lead to discussions among race officials on potential changes to the rules. Known for his strength in wet conditions, Jack Miller had a lot working in his favor at the Chang International Circuit. Within just 4 laps, he managed to move from 15th into the top 5, showing an impressive start. It was a long race, 26 laps in these conditions. I was relatively cautious at the start because I didn't want to be left behind at the finish line with a spinning rear wheel. Quote from Miller. Throughout the early laps, Miller carefully maneuvered through challenging conditions, avoiding other riders' incidents in the thick spray. As Miller continued his aggressive push through the field, he found himself in 3rd place after Marc Márquez's crash. However, by mid-race, his front tire had reached its limit due to the effort he expended catching up. From the middle of the race, my front tire was at its limit. I had burned it while making up ground and I no longer had speed in the rolling phases of the corners. To compensate, Miller began parking the bike before each corner and quickly getting it upright to maintain grip, a technique that helped him stay in contention for a podium. Miller faced an intense duel with his teammate Pedro Acosta, who aggressively challenged him during the race. Miller described the close contact between them as they went side by side through turns 3 and 4. When he pushed up next to me on the inside, we touched at the exit of turn 3. I said to myself, my front wheel started to spin literally every lap there. This duel could have gone either way. Although Miller was eventually unable to hold his position, he was satisfied with the effort he and his team put forth. Reflecting on his performance, Miller emphasized the confidence he felt on the KTM bike, especially in wet conditions. I was chased, and I gave everything to defend this podium position. You just have to feel what's going on underneath you. The carbon brakes are so good. I always have a good feeling in the wet. We showed courage, and that's what counts, Miller concluded. Jack Miller's determination and skill in navigating a challenging wet race highlighted his adaptability on the KTM, despite not reaching the podium. With the season nearing its end, Miller's courage and racercraft remain an inspiration to his fans and teammates alike. Marc Márquez has found success in the latter part of the MotoGP season, securing victories at Aragon, Misano, and Australia. However, Álex Crivillé believes Márquez's journey back to the top hasn't been easy, as he faced both physical and psychological struggles. I think Marc hasn't said much about it, but he was on the verge of quitting racing. He had a really bad time physically and psychologically, many falls, a lot of pain, the diplopia, and that nerve in his right shoulder. Quote from Criville. After enduring over 1,000 days of challenges, Criville admires Marquez's resurgence and is thrilled to see him happy and competitive once again. Seeing Marc like that gives me goosebumps. I'm sure he's ready to win again, and we have to value that. Next year, Marquez will join Pecco Bagnaia on the Ducati Lenovo team, a partnership that Criville believes will either be very successful or extremely challenging. According to Criville, Marquez appears to be carefully setting the stage for a strong relationship with Bagnaia, mixing competitiveness with camaraderie. I think Marc is preparing the ground a bit. He's intimidating Pecco a bit there, like friends. He knows that it's better to start well with him to try to improve the bike and have a good season. Criville warns that if Marquez has performed this well on a less competitive bike, his level could rise even higher next year on a factory Ducati, making him even more of a threat. If Marquez is at a very high level with an inferior bike, imagine him with a factory bike. I don't know who will be able to beat them. Criville also weighed in on the tight championship race between Jorge Martin and Pecco Bagnaia, calling them two incredible riders. He praises Martin's aggressive style and believes he may even have the edge in speed over Bagnaia. For me, Jorge Martin has a style and an aggressiveness and a very high level, like no other. But Pecco is a very cold, very calculating guy, who perhaps knows how to deal with pressure better, Criville concluded. Criville admits it's difficult to predict the outcome, but as a Spanish rider, he hopes to see Martin take the title. With only 2 races left, the 2024 MotoGP Championship remains wide open. Criville's insights reflect the excitement and uncertainty surrounding this season's title contenders, as well as the intriguing potential of Marquez and Bagnaia's partnership next year. The penultimate round in Malaysia could be a pivotal moment for Martin and Bagnaia, with everything still to play for in this intense MotoGP season. Thanks for watching ZNGP today, and this is your MotoGP news update. See you in the next video.